Hello and welcome back to Wow Embossing's YouTube channel. My name is Aditi and I'm back with a mixed media off the page project. Today I'm going to be creating this mixed media style canvas, and to begin with I'm just using my Artistry by Alt New watercolor brush markers, misting the canvas with water and dropping the ink from these brush markers to create a nice light background. I've chosen yellow and turquoise just for a nice blend, and I'm going it in with yellow at the bottom of the canvas and with the blue at the top of the canvas. This just helps me start off the blank canvas with a little color, making it less intimidating for me to add more layers. I also use a regular water brush pen to spread the paint around just to make sure that it all flows and covers my entire region on the canvas. So moving on with the blue, I'm repeating the same process and making sure I have nice coverage of the blue. I do blend in the yellow and the blue where they meet slightly. Ultimately, it's all going to be covered. I'm using my Wow Embossing dual heat tool on the first heat setting to quickly dry this paint on my canvas. Once that's done, my base is all ready for further texture. Here I have the Alt New foil leaf stencil, and I'm just applying some embossing paste through the stencil. I am not worrying about adding every little detail from the stencil. I just want to add paste through the stencil across the entire canvas so I have a beautiful texture down in place. Once that's done, without drying, I'm going to bring in the first new release embossing powder from Wow. I am using the rays of sunshine and sprinkling that over this embossing paste and then heat setting it for added dimension, texture, and that nice shine on my background. So once that's heat set, you will also notice if you're using embossing paste or texture paste that it bubbles up as the embossing powder is heat set, and that further adds more texture to the background. Next up, I'm going to be using the Rustic Relic Duo embossing powder, and they come with the rusty keys and copper runes. So I have here cut pieces of cardstock, and I'm using my embossing ink pad to just add embossing ink on my cardstock. Now you could definitely use the mixed media brush to apply the ink over, or you could use a refill of the embossing pad and just rub that over the cardstock. And this is just a way that I'm doing it, by gently rubbing the paper on the embossing pad, and I'm embossing both these square sheets of cardstock with the two embossing powders. Now once I have embossed them, you can see how gorgeous they look. The two colors are so pretty and shimmery and shiny. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to bring in a die, the houseplants die from Alt New, and die cut variety of these dies on embossed pieces. So I'm using my flower pot base as well as the rim and die cutting that from these two embossed pieces of cardstock. So with that I have my flower pot base, and I can then die cut the other layers with other paper. Now the idea here is to use embossing powders for all the die cuts and to create that composition just by using all these elements that have been colored with the die cuts, with the embossing powder. So I have now a variety of cardstock in different sizes, and I'm using the Nature's Trios embossing powders. So I'm playing with Fern Forest and Cottage Garden on the bigger pieces. That's for my foliage. For the petals, I'm bringing in Summer Meadow as well as two other powders, which are Pastel Rosy Glow and Pastel Pearl Mist, from other new release products this month. So that's a look at all those powders. Now these three are going to be used to die cut the flower petals, And I absolutely love how they coordinate well together, especially because the summer meadow has a little bit of the pink, purple, aqua tones, and then the ultra high embossing powders, the pink and the purple, really complement it very well. So that's a look at all of those heat set, and I can then set them aside and move ahead to heat set the other two pieces for my foliage layer. So these are the two greens, and I also quite like these because this comes with that pop of pink and purple over the green on one powder, and I think that adds so much more extra interest to this canvas when I die cut all these layers. So quickly heat setting that panel. I am then going to use all these panels and die cut my layers from the die. So with that, I have everything die cut. Now for this flower pot, I also added the fired copper just at the top for the hanging element. And once I have all the pieces die cut, now all I need to do is create a beautiful composition. So I have kept the two flower pots at different heights, and for the base layer of the flower pot I've just simply used colored cardstock to complete that, because not much of that inner portion is going to be visible anyway. I'm using liquid adhesive and gluing the elements down. I will also bring in some foam tape at a few places to create varying depth and dimension and adhere my elements down in place. So with that, I then have a beautiful garden composition going on this canvas, and you can see it is so easy to color all the elements just using embossing powders. Do you enjoy using embossing powders in this way? Do you use your embossing powders to just die cut elements and color elements? Do share your thoughts and comments below, and I just love reading them and just knowing what you prefer using or how you play with your embossing powders. The new release is absolutely amazing. We have a variety of powders and sets that are being released, so I think there is something for everyone in this release. So quickly going back, I am just looking for a beautiful composition to place the flowers and alternating it with the big flower, the small flower, and seeing where everything fits well. I usually like to dry fit, and once I have done that and I'm happy with the placement, then I go ahead and glue everything down in place. So when I have everything adhered, the canvas is complete and it just needs a little bit of the finishing touches to bring it all together. Now finishing touches for me are splatter, so I'm going to add white's acrylic ink splatter that instantly adds a pop and dries very well over the embossing powder, so that makes me happy. I'm also going to add a little black splatter to this canvas just for a little pop and contrast. All I need to do is add a little quote or a phrase to complete it, add meaning to this canvas, because I feel like when I use that, it just adds more depth to the composition, and it's something that's going to definitely brighten somebody's day. It can be used as a nice gift, it can be hung on the wall, it can be placed on a stand on the table, and I think it's just very inspiring. So I've chosen Happiness Blooms from Within, which I think is really apt and perfect for this little canvas. With that, this tutorial comes to an end, and I really hope that you have enjoyed this easy mixed media canvas tutorial. I look forward to seeing your creations. Do share them in the Wow Embossing fan group on Facebook. And if you try something similar, do tag me on Instagram at adi.mahajan. Until the next time, take care and bye bye.